Glad to have you staying with us here from Lowe's Motor Speedway this holiday weekend, and hope you enjoyed the Busch Series race on FX. Now it's the Nextel Cup final practice session for Sunday's 600-mile race, which you'll see on Fox. They call this final practice session happy hour, but with all the miles the drivers will be putting on tomorrow, the guys aren't exactly smiling behind the wheel. But still, this is an important session to get everything right, or all right, for Sunday night's primetime race on Fox. NASCAR Nextel Cup Championship title fight. The points championship back on track. Last week, a time to show off at the All-Star race at this same Lowe's Motor Speedway. Matt Kenseth providing 1 million good reasons why he's a money driver as the laps were dwindling down. Watch this monster move. Drivers still talking about it. Kenseth passed Ryan Newman, and Matt Kenseth in the 17 car for Jack Roush taking home $1 million and picking up 1 million new friends as Ryan Newman went over to congratulate him. And now it's back to business and the business of the points. Kenseth fourth there. However, for Sunday's race, he is way back. He qualified, so he'll start in row 19. And right now, 14 drivers within the 400 points of that top spot. Remember, that assures them a spot in the 10-race chase for the championship. Dale Earnhardt Jr., the current points leader, won the last points race, which was a couple of weeks ago in Richmond under the lights. That strengthened his hold on first place. As for the driver second in points, chasing Jr., also in a Chevrolet, Jimmy Johnson, who had the fastest car during qualifying here, and he sits on the pole for Sunday's 600-miler. Johnson won this race last year at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Jimmy hopes his Lowe's car finishes on a high note. Back here in the Hollywood Hotel, I'm Chris Myers, and thanks again for staying with us as we get ready and get set to enjoy Sunday's race. Keep in mind that the race starts in the daylight here and then ends under the lights. You know, there's that Olympic marathon this summer over in Greece, but this is NASCAR's version of a marathon, the only 600-mile race on the schedule. So driver fatigue and engine fatigue will be carefully watched, and we always watch our former crew chief, Jeff Hammond, closely, who's never fatigued. He's down below the Hollywood Hotel at the Ford Cutaway car. Jeff?
We talk about fatigue when it comes to 600 miles. You're exactly right when it comes to that, Chris, because when you see these cycling, these engines will be going through on Sunday night, going from daylight to dark, and all the RPMs they'll be turning. We're turning a little bit slow right now, but you can imagine over 9,000 RPM these engines will be seeing during the course of the evening. So a lot of these components, these engine builders are very concerned about. Things like pistons, piston rods. They want to make sure they don't put too many miles on it. So during these practices, they've been monitoring the number of miles these parts will see. They can change things like valve springs after the practice or even the rocker arms. But all of these components will be going through that extra 100 miles, but the extended cycles are really the biggest concerns. Heating up the cylinder heads, cooling them down, all these little factors come into play during this final practice. And for a lot of these teams, they'll be monitoring extremely close. Right, guys?
That's right, Jeff. Hi, everybody. Mike Joy with Larry McReynolds. Darrell will either join us shortly or he's gone to Indy to try to qualify AJ's fourth car. But to follow up on what Jeff said, getting your stuff to last 600 miles is one thing, Larry, but how about just getting your stuff to last 6 laps?
Yeah, I mean, the story is Ward Burton, the Zero car. His daughter's graduating from high school today with high honors, getting all kinds of accolades and different awards and things. So Ward opted not to be here today for these practice sessions because obviously your daughter only graduates one time. They made race runs on Thursday. He ran about 45 laps on Thursday in race configuration before qualifying. They were not even going to practice that car this morning, but crew chief Tony Furr decided, you know, maybe we just need to go out and make sure there's no vibrations or anything. So they got their Busch Series driver, Jason Leffer, to go out there to run about 10 laps. At lap 6, the engine expired. They are now changing that engine, trying to get out at the tail end of this practice to make sure everything's okay for the 600 miles tomorrow night.
So they've dodged a bullet mechanically. There is one driver who's going to be dodging, it looks like, a lot of raindrops around the country over the next couple of days. Here's Matt Yoakum.
Mike, for the third consecutive year, America will follow Robbie Gordon on his quest to win both the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 in the same day. Rolls off 18th at Indy, 20th here. Now, Robbie, give me the Cliff Notes version of your next 30 hours.
Well, actually, because Indianapolis, our last day was carburation day, I was able to come here, practice in both sessions. We're going to let Clint Boyer drive my singular wireless Chevrolet for a few laps here, just in case something was to happen in Indianapolis. But I'll fly to Indianapolis around 7:30. We have our double duty tour tonight, so we have a big party here in Charlotte. It starts at 5:30. and I'll get on plane 7:30 flight to Indy. Got Meyer and Coca-Cola appearances tonight, as well as Grill to Go. Tomorrow, wake up in the morning and double duty. Got good race cars on both sides. Both of them are Chevrolets. We qualified 18th with IndyCar, 20th with the Cup car. Really happy with it. How it ran in happy hours. So it should be a good weekend.
What about the hydration between both races?
Well, we have some plans. On the biggest deal is probably get to an IV. I'll probably take one of those in the morning before the Indy 500. Take another one between Indy and Charlotte, and then just to keep some energy up, probably do a Red Bull or something like that right before the start of the Coca-Cola 600.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Well, Robbie Gordon will probably get back into his race car and run about half this session. They're going to let Clint Boyer go out and run between 5 and 7 laps. Now, you may recall last year that Ron Hornaday Jr. did the same exact thing, just to have an RCR driver standing by in case something happens that Robbie can't get back and make the start of the Coca-Cola 600. Now let's go to Steve Burns.
Hey, thank you, Matt. The first 3 rows, or 6 drivers in tomorrow's 600-miler, have combined for over 100 victories and 828 Nextel Cup starts. And then there's 20-year-old Brian Vickers, who's among that group. But he's not intimidated in the least. He's one of 3 Hendrick Motorsports teammates inside the top 5. And the team's slogan down here, you can see on the pit box, don't ever give up, Chris Myers.
No, you won't, Steve. You and the pit crew, our Fox and FX pit crew, busy this weekend as the action continues tomorrow, starting at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific. That'll be with NASCAR this morning on Fox Sports Net, and then the Nextel Cup race, the longest race of the season, of the NASCAR season, with the Coca-Cola 600, 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific on Fox. Pre-race show, we'll talk live with Jimmy Johnson, a look at real men on the pits with Jeff Hammond, and go 10 laps with Robbie Gordon. And actually, Robbie Gordon will be driving 1,100 miles tomorrow, flying 1,200. We'll be back here. Final practice session at Lowe's. Glad to have you with us here on FX at Lowe's Motor Speedway, the final practice session for tomorrow's Coca-Cola 600 that you'll see on Fox. And let's rejoin the guys in the booth. Mike, already some early adventure here, especially for Brendan Gaughan.
Only 2 laps into unhappy hour for the Kodak Dodge. Brendan Gaughan backed it into the wall in turn 4, and Larry Carr doesn't look too good.
No, it doesn't. And, I think this is a product of where the experience normally prevails at this racetrack. You see him get real loose right in the middle of turn 3 and 4. When these guys had their earlier practice, the track had a ton of grip. The car felt good to these guys. Now the racetrack is heated up. It's lost that grip, and normally you will be loose in these conditions, and I just think this probably caught Brendan Gaughan off guard. Steve Burns.
Well, Larry Mackey got real loose, and the team has already decided to pull the backup car off of the transporter, so Brendan Gaughan will be going to a backup car. He had qualified 7th for the 600-miler.
And that's the shame of it. You have to give up that 7th starting spot to start in the back. Darrell Waltrip joins us. AJ wouldn't let you qualify as 4th car?
No, sponsor conflict.
I thought you'd gone to Indy.
No, sponsor conflict. Here's what happened to Brendan. He was 4th quickest in the morning practice, and he went back out there and tried to run as fast as he did this morning, and I think a lot like Larry said, experience caught up with him.
He just jumped on it, and it got out from under.
It did. It's a little bit slick out there. I just came from there. That's where I've been.
But this is what these guys will go through tomorrow night in the 600-mile race. When the race gets going, the racetrack's not going to have a lot of grip. But as the race goes on and the night cools down, it's going to gain a lot of grip, Jeff Hammond.
It will do that for sure, Larry. And the one thing about Brendan Gaughan, I had a chance to speak with him just as I was coming up to the hotel. He had a big smile on his face, as Darrell alluded to. Felt really comfortable in the morning practice. Felt like he had a hot rod. He could really get the job done tomorrow night. But he was saying that the bumps were giving him just a little bit of trouble in 3 and 4. Combine that with a freer racetrack and those bumps, and DW, you know what happens then.
We've long said that this is the most weather-sensitive track on the circuit, and that's your hot spot for tomorrow.
It really is, and I think if you go down there, and I was just standing down there looking at it's not dramatic, but there's a huge transition right there. I believe that spot in the racetrack is actually concrete. It doesn't even look like or feel like asphalt, and it's just that transition on and off that upsets the car.
At 160 miles an hour plus.
The patch there, you saw Brendan Gaughan over that patch, the car loose and up in the wall. The tire tracks tell the tale. Has Gaughan trying to overhaul Casey Kane in the rookie point standings. Happy hour for some is a time to practice. For others, it's a time to snack.
That'll keep the doctor away.
That's right.
Dr. Dick, he's down there somewhere.
He's there. Dale Earnhardt Jr., John Andretti, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Newman, and Brian Vickers are the Fast Five at the moment. We talk a lot about this track being weather sensitive, and I guess Darrell's kind of like, do you want to mow your lawn at 1 in the afternoon, or do you want to go mow your lawn after supper?
Well, and the sun is beaming down on the 3rd and 4th turn over there. So it's actually much hotter than any other part of the racetrack. Throw in those bumps over there, and you got your hands full.
As did Brendan Gaughan. Steve Burns is with him.
And Mike, this team is working very hard to get the backup car. Brendan, what happened there in practice?
We went out there on stickers, just do one more thing before it got hot. Wanted to try a couple baseline things and just got loose early. I mean, we know that stickers are a little free, and I went in, hit the bumps in 3, got it loose, ruined a pretty good Kodak Dodge. I mean, we qualified up front. We felt we had a good shot here, but this Dodge has raced before. We've run it at Darlington this year, and we've done a bunch of testing on it, Kentucky and a few places. So we think we'll be all right.
We'll let you get back to work. Thanks, Brendan.
You know, Mike, Darrell, just to show you how much this racetrack has changed since that earlier practice this morning as we watched the 31 car come into the garage area, is Dale Earnhardt Jr. was fastest this morning as he is right now. We had 15 cars that ran a lap in the 29-second bracket in the first practice. We only have 1 car that has run that quick in this practice, just barely, Dale Earnhardt Jr. at a 29.99.
Darrell, what's it do to your psyche? Your teammate, we just saw Ryan Newman there, will start on the front row. Rusty's well up in the field. Brendan qualified well. For a rookie driver to have something like this happen in happy hour, I know that race drivers are a breed apart. They can put that out of their mind and concentrate on the task at hand, but how do you do that?
Well, every weekend you're allowed maybe one mistake. That can happen when you're qualifying. It can happen when you're practicing. It can happen, hopefully not in the race, but that's all. You get your one mistake. He made a big one. He caused them to have to get the backup car out. And that hurts. That's going to affect that team the rest of the weekend.
Watching Dave Blaney right here in the 23 car, qualified in 11th position. Again, this is one of the few teams that's running a limited schedule because of limited sponsorship, but it just seems like this type of racetrack always fits Dave Blaney's style. I mean, he was pretty quick in this morning's practice. Right now, he's 8th quickest in this practice, but every race these guys have ran this year, with the exception of the restrictor plate racetracks, they've had good, solid runs and good, solid finishes.
Blaney came within a pit stop of winning at Atlanta for this team a couple of years ago.
And to follow up a little bit, the other part's emotion. You were on a high. You qualified 7th. You practiced 4th quick in the morning practice. I mean, you got everybody walking around on their toes, their head held high, their chest poked out. All of that just went down the tube.
And how about Tony Stewart? Went up to Indianapolis last weekend to have a cup of coffee with his old buddy A.J. Foyt. They got to joking around, and A.J. said, let's go run a few laps in this backup car. And they got kidding about it, and they finally realized, hey, they could put this thing in the show, and they could run the Indy 500, which the winning of which has long been Stewart's dream. He grew up in Indiana, and you just can't escape the impact of the speedway, even if you're racing quarter midgets in Indiana. Every driver's dream is to go to Indy. Well, it almost became reality. Stewart was in the car. His name was on the side. And but for one sponsor with whom Tony had a contractual obligation that conflicted with AJ's, it coulda, woulda, might have happened. And next year, Tony says, the competitive juices are pumped. He wants to find a way to run the Indy 500 and the Coke 600 again. He's finished top 5 in both on the same day. He can certainly do it, and I know he'd love to.
Well, and knowing AJ, I mean, I grew up as an AJ Foyt fan. He was a hero of mine. And to have him say he'd like for you to drive his car,
that's big.
That's big.
Now, the first man to do the double on Memorial Day weekend and race Indy and Charlotte in the same day is this man, John Andretti, who right now is 2nd fastest in this practice.
He did it back in 1994, and this is a DEI car. We go all the way back to Las Vegas when Dale Earnhardt Jr. had that disastrous race, and he complained about DEI not doing enough testing. Well, that's one thing they've been doing with John Andretti, Tony Gibson, and that group. This group with this car alone, they tested here once. They tested at Kentucky twice, with information being spread out to the other DEI teams, Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr. And he's 2nd quickest in this practice.
Larry, I wonder, are we coming soon to the time when these teams have a dedicated full-time test driver like we see in Formula One and other series?
Well, I think with the way the schedule keeps changing, I think that's going to be a necessary evil to have that. Yeah, it's sometimes hard for another driver to go set a race car up for another driver, DW, but you can go do a good job of ABC and things, especially aero pieces.
Yeah, and I keep hearing that NASCAR is taking a hard look at some sort of restriction on testing for next year. What I don't know, but I keep hearing that they're looking at that because people are going other places other than the Cup tracks and doing a lot of testing.
As we watch Kevin Harvick, who starts 23rd tomorrow and has the 3rd fastest practice time. Darrell, I think all that restriction would mean is a whole bunch of new Busch and ARCA teams coming out of the Cup shops.
Oh, yeah. If every rule you make, there's somebody going to figure out how to get around it.
Jeff Green is a former Busch Series champion, and he's in the Great American Bake Sale Dodge for the Petties this weekend, and for the 3rd race in a row, a great qualifying effort for Jeff Green. And I think, Larry, he's really lifted the fortunes of this whole Petty team with his qualifying prowess.
He really has. Now, talking to Gary Putnam, his crew chief, the thing they're wanting to tie the knot in now is closing the deal. As you said, Mike, he qualified 3rd at Fontana, qualified 3rd at Richmond, but he had engine woes at Fontana. The car was not that great at Richmond, and he got caught up in an accident. So now that they feel good about the qualifying, the next step in the process, let's get to where we can race and close the deal.
Well, here comes the man right here. I mean, for the last 10 races over here, Bobby Labonte has dominated this race. If you look at statistics, most top 5s, most top 10s, most laps led, most points accumulated, average finish 4.7. It'd be hard to bet against Bobby Labonte in this race.
And he did get his very first career win here back in 1995, the first year he started driving for Joe Gibbs in this 18 group.
You know, since you've received your doctorate, you've gotten a lot more literate on this stuff.
And you know what? There was no notes laying in front of him when he was talking about all that.
Oh, well, you know, after 4 years, you start to accumulate some knowledge.
That's right. You just can't find that stuff on a brownie box.
Tuesday, don't miss television's best cop drama. Emmy winner Michael Chiklis stars in an all-new episode of The Shield. That's Tuesday at 10 p.m. only on FX. FX bringing you racing on weekends and NASCAR drivers at 360 as well. As you get a look at Jeff Gordon getting ready for the Coca-Cola 600 tomorrow. And he's got his own Shield. Jeff Hammond, no pole sitter, has won this season, but Jimmy Johnson has had success on this track, and he is sitting on the pole for tomorrow.
Well, if anybody can kind of break that string right now, Jimmy Johnson's the man. Last year in Charlotte, he pretty much dominated. He likes this racetrack. He's very comfortable. Every time I've talked to him, he's got a certain kind of like attitude about him, about racing here. Doesn't feel the pressure of this being basically Lowe's home track. He's got sponsorship by Lowe's. Loves the track. Feels more pressure really from owner Rick Hendrick because it's their hometown than anything else. But I really believe he could be the guy that's going to break the string tomorrow night.
Let's check in. We saw Jeff Gordon a moment ago. Steve Burns is standing by. Steve?
Well, Chris, Jeff's heading back out onto the racetrack. They've just made some adjustments to that 24 car. He says he's a little bit tight in 1 and 2 and a little free in 3 and 4. So the adjustments they made a camber adjustment to the right front, and they pulled a spring rubber out of the left rear spring. Matt?
Steve, a good day going so far for Tony Stewart. Remember, he won here last fall. Right now, they're putting on a sticker set of tires, meaning they're a brand new set of tires. Tony debriefing with crew chief Greg Zipadelli. Zippy just debriefed with engineer Dave Rogers, talking about what adjustments to make to this car. Tony 9th on the board at this juncture.
Fellas, one other young driver I'd keep an eye on is Kyle Busch. He's a rookie in the Busch Series, but he's going to run this Cup race, and right now he has one of the top 10 fastest practice speeds.
And Mike, you know the biggest thing about all of these rookies, Kyle Busch, Casey Kane, Johnny Sauter, Brendan Gaughan, they have never raced a 600-mile race. So they're fixing to step into a new venture tomorrow night.
Yeah, and it is a different, it's kind of like going 200 mile an hour. We could go up to 200. It didn't seem to make any difference. Once we went over 200, the cars went through a dramatic change, almost like breaking the sound barrier. And that's kind of like 600 miles. It's a big, big step.
Well, here's our marathon man, Mark Martin. I get that Mark is in such shape, he could probably run a 24-hour race by himself.
I would say so. He works out. He's, you know, he has a trainer, and he's Doesn't eat. He just eats certain things. He's written books about being in good shape, and he lives it.
Yeah, fitness a very, very big part of his regimen, and it's carried him to victory lane here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Remember, we start this race in twilight, we end in darkness. All the bright lights are in victory lane, and that's where Mark Martin was in May of 2002.
And I don't believe I ever saw a more exciting finish to any race with his teammate chasing him to the line for $1 million. And Mark drove like he wanted that million.
When you're ready, we'll get a clean cut covered up whenever you're done, bud.
And what he just said there, get me a clean cut. That's for the sake of the engine guy. He wants to look at the distribution on those plugs. And the thing I noticed, we've been talking about engines and watching your mileage. He's only ran 14 laps, but in that very first practice, he ran 36 laps. So they're trying to keep the mileage down on that engine as they prepare for this 600-mile race.
Darrell, what do you say we go for a ride with Dale Jarrett here?
Can I use my horn?
You bet.
All right, get out of my way, folks. I'm down into turn 1, and you want to eat up that yellow line. You want that left front tire to be right down on that yellow line because you're going to need all the racetrack coming off of turn 2. That straightaway is long, but it doesn't feel like it when you're going this fast. And I got a problem. I'm coming in.
More adjustment.
I didn't want to mess with the bumps. I'm coming in.
Got to fix the horn.
Golly, and I had a good lap going too.
Jimmy Johnson helping the crew push the car in. They unveiled he's going to run the Busch race here in October. Jimmy doesn't run a lot of races since leaving the Busch series, but they've got a special promotion with SpongeBob SquarePants, he and Kyle Busch, for this October. All right, let's go for a ride with Rusty.
Let me try this again. Here we go down that back straightaway. A little rough right here as we get down toward turn 3, bumpity bump. You take a late apex down to the bottom. Watch out for the bumps. That's right where they are. Back in the throttle. You're going to use a lot of racetrack right there, right out next to that safer barrier. Cut it to the inside. Clip the apron as you come to the trowel. Clip. Another little clip there. Right back out next to the wall. Right in front of the condos. Waved all the fans. And hook that left front wheel again down on that white line. And let her eat. Come up on the back straightaway. Take a deep breath. You made it.
He's coming in. Did you break that one too?
I just keep having trouble. I'm not happy. I'm not happy with the package.
We're not happy till you're not happy.
Well, you've been talking to Hammond.
Yeah. Let's go take those off the rear. I didn't like those. They felt too right rear down. Not enough support on entry.
See, I told you I got a shock problem.
And I was going to say, it sounded like they tried 2 rear shocks that he just did not like. It took the balance away from the car.
Let's check with Matt and the pole sitter.
Jimmy Johnson will start from the pole, like you mentioned, Mike. 12th fastest in this practice session. Now, Jimmy, daytime, temperatures are hot, but I heard you say on the radio, you feel like the car is going to be very strong at night.
Yeah, the car's driving good. We were incredibly fast in the first practice, and you know, a little tight. So we wanted to free it up, and knowing the track is getting hot and loosening up right now, we expected to have a bad handling car in a sense, and not really the fastest time, but a certain feel that I've been looking for here since I've been here in a Cup car, and we've had it and been able to have success with it. That time out we had it. We've been very close, but things turning really good on throttle, and very comfortable in, and that's a hard balance to get here, and we're in good shape. And like you said, I've got the feel that I need in the daytime that I'm pretty sure I'll need to start the race with.
Started 37th last year on the pole for tomorrow night. Does that change your mindset and your strategy?
Yeah, when last year here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, when we had the problems in qualifying, we knew there was a possibility of a rain-shortened race, so I had to go as hard as I could, and we got to the front in time. This time, starting out of the box, it's a little bit more relaxed than it was last year, but it's still a long race, and it's still Lowe's Motor Speedway, and it's a tough place to get a hold of.
He won from 37th last year, trying to make it 2 in a row, this time, though, from the pole. To Steve Burns.
Matt Dale Earnhardt Jr. just pulled into his garage stall. He's describing his race car as, this is pretty nice. He says it turns better. I have a good line getting around this place. He said the only problem, the right rear doesn't want to stick on entry into the corners. They made an adjustment to the left front to counteract that. Now they're going to go out and take a plug check, and that'll be just about it for this practice in Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Thanks, Steve. Matt, don't tell Jimmy Johnson, but only 4 drivers in 44 years have won this race from the pole. Jeff Gordon did it 3 times, David Pearson twice, Buddy Baker and Fred Lorenzen have won the Coke 600 from the pole. Here's a look at the top 10 speeds indicative of the first couple of laps turned in this practice session. Only one driver improved on his time from the first 4 laps, and that was Jimmy Johnson, whose 7th lap was his quickest, and Casey Kane's 8th lap, Clint Bowyer's 10th lap as he comes up to speed in that Robbie Gordon car, getting a little quicker. Believe it or not, this is the same car with which Matt Kenseth won $1 million last Saturday night. They took it back to the shop, sanded off all the yellow paint, redid it, and he's ready to go.
See by the graphic there, he'll have the same task at hand that Jimmy Johnson had a year ago. He's going to start 37th, which is, we talked to Jimmy Johnson a while ago, that's where he started when he won this race.
I guarantee you one thing, if I was mad, I'd have gone over and helped them paint it to be sure that they brought the same one back and they didn't trick me.
Kurt Busch, who had a tough time Saturday night, and Jeff Hammond, you were able to talk to the Roush camp and find out about the meeting of the minds between Kurt Busch and Greg Biffle since last Saturday evening.
Mike, I did have that opportunity to get a chance to talk to not only the couple of crew chiefs, but the owner, Jack Roush. And Jack said that the two drivers were able to get together and settle their differences, which really made him very happy because he knew that Kurt Busch was very sorry about what occurred here last week during the All-Star race. But he and Greg Biffle were able to get together, basically bury the hatchet, and everything is good right now back in the Roush camp. So hopefully tomorrow night you'll see those two guys racing side by side with no kind of incidents to have to worry about.
Last Saturday night here at Lowe's Motor Speedway in the NASCAR Nextel All-Star Challenge, Kurt Busch had a run coming through the quad oval, got a little too hard in the back of Greg Biffle, who spun, and when it was over, 11 cars were either damaged or in the garage.
And he was bump drafted. And if you haven't had a lot of experience, you do that at Daytona and Talladega and get away with it. But you don't do that at Charlotte or the mile-and-a-half racetracks.
Well, in all the interviews I heard of the drivers, Darrell, after that wreck, they said they're wrecking on the straightaway. The thing about it, the front stretch here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, they're in a straight part about it. And if you noticed exactly where Kurt got into Greg, it's where he's making a turn out of the last part of this dog leg on the front stretch. He had the wheels turned when he got bumped in the rear.
And if he'd have bumped him and shot him up past Kenseth, who was down on the inside, everybody would have been happy. But he didn't. Nobody was happy.
It's a double dog leg, this front straightaway, or broken dog leg, if you will. There on the right of your screen, there is the first dog leg after you come off turn 4. Then there's this short straight section, and then a second dog leg.
And right there, that's where he got bumped, right there where you make that turn.
So it's hard, Darrell, to find any part between turn 4 and turn 1 with 2 cars nose to tail where one of those cars isn't turning at some time.
When you catch the first part of the dog leg down here coming off of 4, the car feels pretty good right there. You're in good control. But you get to picking up a lot of speed, and when you head off into turn 1, you've got a handful of steering wheel getting that thing cut down into turn 1.
Here's Kenny Schrader in the 49 car, and we've been talking about birthdays all week. Of course, our own Dick Berggren celebrated his birthday on Thursday, but this weekend, Kenny Schrader is celebrating his 49th birthday. Well, his sponsor, Swans, was trying to figure out how could we honor his birthday. What they came up with, it's going to be hot here tomorrow. 49,000 fans that come into this racetrack tomorrow, they're going to be treated with Swans confetti ice cream cups. They felt like that's the best way they could honor their driver, Kenny Schrader's 49th birthday.
We could be fans for a little while.
Absolutely, especially as hot as it's going to be.
All those candles, it could have been dangerous.
49,000 candles.
Yeah. You know, this is Speed Weekend, the Grand Prix tomorrow morning, the Indy 500 in the afternoon, the Coke 600 at night. Lime Rock and road racing on Monday. USA Today has, since 1984, done a special section. But for the first time, I think, a racer's on the front page of USA Today this weekend for Speed Weekend. Above the fold, bigger than life, and it happens to be rookie Casey Kane. I talked with him last night at the Speedway Children's Charities Gala, and I'm not sure he understands that that is an honor usually reserved for kings and presidents and other big newsmakers, but that's larger than life, and there he is, life-size and in real time with Matt Yoakum.
Buckling in after the team changed the manifold on this number 9 Dodge. Now, Casey, let's talk about heat. 300 miles today, 600 miles tomorrow. But back at Fontana 5 weeks ago, the temperature was about 100 for both days. So do you feel like your body is getting more acclimated to doing the double in a big heated situation?
I think it probably is a little bit, but I still have a ways to go. I mean, I get hot in these cars. I don't know. I work hard to try not to get hot, and I get hot every week. So we just keep working on it.
Now, what are you going to do tonight to maybe do something a little extra as far as rehydration in preparation for the 600 miler tomorrow night?
I don't know. I'm going to go eat a good dinner and try to drink a lot of fluids and just get ready for tomorrow, relax a little bit. I don't have anything to do tonight, so that's pretty cool. First night in a while. Scale of 1 to 10, quickly, rate your car. The green flag, it's probably about a 4, and about 30 laps in, it's about a 10.
That sounds pretty darn good, DW.
Yeah, it does. That sounds like an Everham car. But look, folks, look at all this stuff around him. There's no way that seat is all around him. It's wrapped around him down here. He slid back in that seat real tight for safety reasons. He puts on a full face helmet, a pair of gloves, and there's 1,200 degrees of heat in the tailpipes right under his feet. It's just trying to cook him the whole night.
Well, plus you've got 3 layers of fire-resistant material, and these ex-sprint car guys, they wear the no-mix underwear as well. So, Jeff, that's a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of things that keep heat in more than let heat get out.
Mike, one of the problems you run into when you talk about the new seat system, if you look, this is where the driver's head actually sits inside of this particular seat. If you can imagine, a lot of times what keeps the body cool is the air that gets around you. When you sit down in this seat, I'm going to sit in here. When you sit down in it, it basically wraps you around not only the cover, but all the aluminum. The aluminum gets hot. When that happens, you're basically sitting inside what a lot of guys will call an oven. So when the temperature outside goes up, the temperature inside the car goes up. There's no air moving around your body to help cool you down. So you have to rely a lot on that air conditioning system inside that race car if you want to keep a cool head and try to go what's going to happen to be 600 miles tomorrow night. Down to you, Matt.
Jeff Hamlin, remember back to Fontana when Casey was burning inside of his seat because he had that ice inside his fire suit. Well, the ice pack broke, the water leaked into the seat, but the team had not cut any holes in that seat for the water to drain, so it started to cook, and they have now cut some holes in that seat. But that's just some things that drivers will do on hot afternoons and evenings with the ice packs, Jeff. Hand that ice pack through the window, let the driver stuff it in their seat. Like our television broadcast at Martinsville, Tony Stewart even takes a tie wrap around the zipper just so he can get that zipper down and stuff that ice pack in.
So at Fontana, Darrell, Casey was a lobster. He was getting steamed.
That's right. That all comes right off your body down into the seat, and you're sitting in it, and it basically just cooks you.
You see the water laying right there in the seat. That's what was going on with Casey at Fontana.
And rookie guys just don't. They've never had that experience. Veterans know you got to cut a hole right there, and you got to cut a hole right there. Oh, that's Casey. I'm sorry.
Not there.
I love that telestrator.
Yeah, we'll fix it and come right back. I hope. Only 2 cars have not been on track in this final hour of practice. Terry Labonte in the Kellogg Chevy and the Pedigree Ford of Elliott Sadler have elected to sit this one out.
Makes sense to me. I mean, really, I'm going to learn a whole lot right now.
Well, let's learn something from Steve Burns.
And we'll talk to Jeff Gordon. Jeff, we heard you a few minutes ago say the car was a little bit loose in 3 and 4. Did you get that fixed, and how do you like your car?
Well, you know, this morning we were really way off, and we made some adjustments, and the guys really brought the car to life right there. I'm real happy with it. We are just a little bit loose, but, you know, it's daytime, the track's slick. You know, we're going to keep this thing adjustable, so that 600 miles we can be decent in the beginning, but really come on strong in the end. On the track, things have been great. Unfortunately, off the track, things have not. With Robbie's mom and Papa Joe, and last night Jeff Mendering's father passed away of a heart attack. So our hearts and prayers are going out to Jabba and his family. That's what we call them around here.
All right, thanks a lot, Jeff, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
And here's Brendan backup. Brendan gone in the backup Kodak Dodge after backing it into the turn 4 wall. Having a little trouble over the bumps in turns 3 and 4.
And boy, he's driving a whole different line than he was when he was fast, Larry. He's really conservative. He's staying off of that wall and not really running all that fast in his backup car.
Yeah, he's 29th quickest in this practice session. His last lap was a 31.50 roughly, and his fast lap was a 30.40.
And that fast lap was set before, just when he was out there on his out lap, I believe.
Goodyear, then go to the pump.
Show you again what happened, and this was just after just 2 laps of practice.
Heard him say he had stickers on and went across the bumps with those sticker tires, and she broke loose.
The sticker tires are brand new tires that have not been on the racetrack yet.
And I'm sorry, Larry, his quickest lap was set in this backup car.
Yes.
My mistake.
Fill it up with fuel, and then we got to come back to the scales and just see where we're at so we don't lose our baseline. Good job, everybody, getting that thing together and back out there correctly.
Nice job, boys. Good backup car.
That's
Jeff Burton there.
Crew chief Shane Wilson.
Right.
Basically, all they were trying to do is get that race car out there. I'm sure it wasn't totally set up for race conditions. They just wanted to get out there, get some time on it, make sure nothing had any leaks, no vibrations, anything like that.
And driver comfort. Be sure that the seat and everything is comfortable for a 4.5-hour race.
You know, if you're Jack Roush, you got to like your chances tomorrow night. You've got 3 past winners of this race in the field. We saw Mark Martin, Matt Kenseth, and Jeff Burton, who's a couple-of-time winner of the Coke 600. Crew got to do the fence climb Memorial Day weekend 2001.
We talk about Hendrick's dominance here, but boy, Roush has come on pretty strong here of late with his teams.
I mean, the biggest problem that these guys have got is where they qualified, which again, Jimmy Johnson proved that's not a total problem. The best qualifying Roush car is 18th, Mark Martin. The other 4 cars are starting 30th or worse. Jeff Burton will actually go off 34th.
I kind of like it when Kenseth's about 25th, 26th, long in there. That's a typical qualifying run for him.
Tomorrow evening is NASCAR's longest night. The 600-mile race is the only event on the schedule longer than 500 miles. And since NASCAR instituted the one-engine rule, Jeff, teams have not been able to change the power plant. But after this final practice, what can they do?
What they'll be doing is they'll be looking at the vital signs, Mike. They'll go and bring the car inside the garage area, and immediately the teams will start taking things apart. Like this filter, it's the return line back to the oil tank. They'll be looking to see if anything is happening in the bottom end of the engine. They'll also pull off the regular filter, which really resembles a passenger car filter. They'll cut it apart and make sure there's no little bits of metal or pieces in there, foreign objects that may be telling them that something's going wrong down in the bottom end. They'll also take scopes and look down inside the cylinder walls and look at the cylinder heads from inside. Special scopes that light up inside the cylinder head so they can see how the valve seats look. They'll be checking for the color on the tops of the piston to make sure that the jetting is exactly right to run 600 miles. After that, they'll remove all the valve springs, put brand new valve springs on it, along with rocker arms, all these little objects that go through a lot of cycling and turn a lot of RPM and put a lot of strain as far as the valve train is concerned will be changed out. And hopefully, through all of this maintenance and looking around, they'll be able to catch things that may be giving them problems before the start of the race, or by changing these components, they'll be able to go 600 miles without any problems.
And we just showed Jeff Burton in the 99 car. Now, he ran 29 laps in that first practice. As you see, this practice is now over. In this practice session, he ran 42 laps. That's a total of 71 laps. That's right at 100 miles or a little over. That's about as much as those engine guys want to put in practice.
Yeah, and give me a good tune-up now. Don't get to the thing where it's going to burn extra fuel. Put me on the money.
Got to have good fuel mileage.
400 laps, 600 miles. Tomorrow we'll be right back. Early tomorrow. tomorrow morning, the German Grand Prix on Speed Channel, then the NASCAR this morning on Fox Sports Net. And after Indy, make sure you're right there on Fox at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the Coca-Cola 600. NASCAR continuing all weekend long across the Fox networks. Have a look at the starting lineup for the Coke 600. And as a result of this practice session, Brendan Gaughan will forfeit that 7th position. Going to a backup car, he'll start tail end.
Yeah, you know, a couple of things, Mike, that you got to really concern yourself with. Driver comfort, get plenty of air and plenty of fluids. The other thing is the tune-up, as I alluded to a little bit ago. If I can make one less pit stop than everybody, I can win this race.
See Ward Burton in a 0 car. That car will have to go to the rear of the field because of the engine they lost in that earlier practice. And Robbie Gordon qualified 20th. Even if he makes it back for the race, if he don't make it back for that 3:30 drivers meeting, if he misses the meeting, which probably he will, he'll have to go to the rear of the field. NASCAR does not acknowledge the Indy 500 when it comes to that.
But we'll all be watching.
Oh, yeah.
And good luck, Robbie.
"52 cars showed up here on Thursday for qualifying, the biggest field of cars we've had since the Brickyard 400 last August.
So to close things out, let's go back down to the Hollywood Hotel and Chris Myers.
And those stands will be packed tomorrow for the Coca-Cola 600. Rusty Wallace, Tony Stewart, Michael Waltrip will be among the drivers that will roast NASCAR President Mike Heldon at the Dinner of Champions in Greensboro, North Carolina, coming up on June 2nd. Proceeds help to fight multiple sclerosis. You can purchase tickets by dialing 336-299-4136. That should be a lot of fun. Mike Heldon never got a dinner. Now he'll get one.
Why didn't they invite us? We could do a really good job with him.
We roast him all the time off the air, in between commercial breaks. All right, before we wrap things up, what did you see in this final practice session that will give us a clue as to what we'll see tomorrow?
I saw 2 things. I saw the Roush guys using a little bit of strategy, weren't in the top 10 in the second practice, but how about Dale Earnhardt Jr.? Top of both lists. Looks like he's got a pretty good hot rod.
Yeah, and for Roush cars, they didn't qualify well, right? Then they did okay in the morning session and then back to not so okay in the afternoon session. So the strategy, right, they'll think about it overnight.
Think about it overnight, but I really believe they got a handle on their cars and they know what they want to do from the twilight to the dark. You don't want to tune yourself out during this final practice.
All right, for Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers from the Hollywood Hotel, and our entire crew, the guys upstairs, hopefully you'll be with us tomorrow, the Coca-Cola 600, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 Pacific. On our pre-race show, we'll talk live with Jimmy Johnson. Also, we'll send Jeff Hammond for a look at real men down on the pits, and we'll go 10 laps with Robbie Gordon. He's doing the double thing once again. Brendan Gaughan, a rough session today. We'll see how it lasts tomorrow. For our entire crew, thanks for being with us for the Busch Race final practice here on FX. We'll see you tomorrow on Fox.